But how is it different from, say, the Anthropic and the OpenAI kind of models?
Very different.
So can you just talk about how is it different? Yeah.
The first is primarily like what like OpenAI and all these Anthropic guys will say: efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. Put profits ahead of everything, right? That
Or
works.
Google Gemini or whatever.
And you don't need like all of those guys to actually do that, by the way. The world has been doing that without them. It's called RPA, robotic process automation. Okay. The second type of decision is more like contextual, where it is actually trying to mimic what good humans do. You and I do, debating. Hey, I know numbers say this, but I think this because my instinct says this.
It's more
Judgment based. And like, how decisions are made. It is decision optimization at the core of how you and I interact as humans. And then the moral thing is like, amplifying well-being. Rarely people think about it in corporate. Right? So it's a platitude. So in those two types of problems, the second type of problem, what they say is, whenever I come up with something, I don't want to do any harm. And then the third classification of problem is, let's do good. So angelic intelligence is the third form. Let's do good. Right? So efficiency, do no harm, do good. People always confuse ethical as doing good. Doing good and doing no harm is very different.
So that the second one you're talking is more an ethical AI.
Ethical AI.
Correct?
That is the ethical AI, which is what like a lot of people would say. Now, ethical AI has a problem. Like, when do you talk about ethics? Not after like something happened, right? You only talk about ethics, if things go wrong, then it's too late.
Yeah.
You've already given a kid a suicide note to kill himself. Adam Reen. ChatGPT, very famous. That fellow said like, I have depression. It said like, here's your suicide note. And that fellow killed himself. Right? Grok undressed kids. Right? And like put like a lot of pornographic material. Who's like, you have actually stripped dignity from people. The third one, which I'm talking about, do good, brings that goodness in native into the architecture. So every computation has this lens of like goodness being built into it, and then you can figure out how much good you want to be, because it's still free will. You want to be amoral, be my guest. You want to be moral, be my guest. You want to be in between, be my guest. So it's a configurable way of designing a system that helps you balance how you want to behave. Because the way you behave at the age 16 is different than the way you behave at age 20, is different than the behave like in age 40, and is very different than the in the way you behave at age 60. Because your wisdom levels are very different at different levels.
Yeah.
Right? So virtue is universal in the sense the definition of a virtue is universal. The temperature of the virtue is a variable.
So would this not be available in standard platforms like, Gemini or ChatGPT or Anthropic? Because they are also releasing a whole host of, applications which are sitting on top of the base platform, I would call it. Right?
Yeah. So, great question. Again, there are three types of ways of approaching a problem. Right? When a response comes, you want to modify the response. Prompt engineering. You keep telling like when you say this, like say it this way. I didn't mean it that way. That is a prompt engineering level. And then there is the fine tuning level. Fine tuning level is like, basically it is skill based. You're teaching it. Right? Like saying, hey, when I get this type of thing, like, you should like do this and all that. Right? And then there is model level, architectural. Right? So if you use a prompt based, the prompt doesn't work. It's like a band-aid. The wound is still there, no? right? So so what we are saying is, if Google, Gemini and others have to start doing this, they have to go take everything that they have built and put it into garbage and restart all over again. And guess what? No one is going to be forgiving of that philosophy. Um, so let me tell you why. So when OpenAI came out, it had a very purest way of like thinking about like the company.
No, in fact, it started out like that.
Yes, exactly. They said like we want to be morally conscious.
And
All
basically, it is a non-profit.
it was a
and
non-profit and
Yeah.
all, and then the Altmans of the world like
Yeah.
show up and basically like and I guess like VCs kicked in a little bit, and then like others kicked in, and then they pour gasoline on it, and then now it is like commercial, and then the first commercial version of it came out. And it became a for-profit with an interesting setup, like which I don't understand. Like people still think like Sam Altman will not get any money, but like I think he'll make 7% of the business from a valuation perspective, and what value he gets created. And by the way, he's also it's very interesting. Like OpenAI is also investing in other startup companies that Sam Altman is the owner for. I don't I'm like working for corporate. It is called like conflict of interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So there's all kinds of weirdness going on in the world right now. Circular investment strategies. And so then they said like OpenAI just recently said we're going to put ads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So now it's extractive economy. Like it's extraction of like economics which doesn't work. Like it'll be like more like a dopamine strategy, which is what happened with Facebook. And Facebook, look at where Facebook is. Like Zuckerberg did not attend AI summit, right? Zhang came and sat in the AI summit because Zuckerberg was very like busy testifying that he did not kill kids. So that's the implication of being an extractive economy. So and then like my friend from Anthropic, Dorio, he wrote this beautiful article, adolescence of technology, and like how concerned he was about the wisdom like lagging, like how intelligence is moving, and da 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 da, and like taking pot shots at like OpenAI, saying that no, oh, you are coming up with ads, like we don't have ads. And then he raises like $30 billion on like a $380 billion valuation, the company. And then like the next thing he says, underline underneath that, the press release, it says we are under significant pressure from all of our VCs on the commercial aspect of the business. So what is coming next to OpenAI, to Anthropic? Ads.
Correct.
Right? When your revenue sources are like out, the only way you can start making money is how people traditionally have made money, which is like extractive economy. And so the reason why I say all of this is because the shareholders are relentless. No shareholder wants to be told, I'm going to make less money than I made previous year. So now, if that is the mindset that we are going to go after, taking an existing model which was built on world's garbage, which is the reasoning model today, and then say, I'm going to be morally conscious, and I'm going to be ethically aware, and I'm going to like amplify human goodness. Never going to happen. Mark my words. And so think of this, angelic intelligence is more like a trust layer. It's a trust layer. So because if you think the AI race, right, and the infrastructure race, it's largely over, right? OpenAI and Anthropic and Gemini, they have such a big head start, that that side of the house is done dusted. Okay, so but what they can never stand and say is trust me. Right? So what makes a beautiful business a beautiful business? It's a Venn diagram. Your strength, the competitor's weakness, and the customer demand. The intersection of that is a business. Right? When your strength is saying that I am trustworthy. And their business model is, I don't trust you. Like, you can like dance all up and down. Sundar Pichai can come and say, I'm not an extractive economy. But everyone you talk to in the brand world, they would say like, these guys rip me every day for SEO optimization.
Yeah.
They will only like, put the guys who gave me most money up. And
Exactly.
everyone is like, deflate because it's extraction. Right? Good guy. He's doing the right thing
Yeah.
by his shareholders. In fact, great guy. I admire him a lot. And but bound by his shareholders' commitments.
Yeah.
So they can never say like, please trust me. Amazon can never say, I care about humans. They don't. If they did, they would not like fire like 16,000 people. They would have retrained them. They would have like led them into the economy in a better way, right? So they never did any of those things. So they can never say there is they are trustworthy, and we are building a trust layer. And then the third one is the customer. Like, we have been talking about Angelic Intelligence since October of this year. Swaminathan sir, you will not believe this. Honest to God. We got 2 billion views on social media on this topic, on humanizing AI. Deeply resonating with people. Deeply resonating with people. And in fact, people are craving for it. It's like, it's deeply resonating with people. Okay, that's the consumer. Now, the consumer are two types. Like, one is the enterprise and one is the consumer. Now, let's talk to the enterprise side of that. When you take an enterprise kind of view of the world and ask like enterprises, like, do you trust AI? You'll say absolutely not. 77% of enterprises don't trust AI. How can you trust AI? You tell me. Swaminathan like puts a message in the chatbot like ChatGPT or Anthropic and says, I need to interview Shekhar Natarajan. I want a list of questions. It'll give you a list of questions. And you say, are these questions great? It will say, Swaminathan, these questions are the most brilliant questions that you can ever come up with, and it is very provocative. And then you say, like, maybe I don't like these questions. What do you think about it? It says, you are absolutely right. It doesn't actually like, relate to everything you're doing. So you cannot run the organization on the whims and fancies of like this thing hallucinating like this. The second thing is, what is the data source? The data source was like all of the public data.
Yeah.
Reasoning models were actually learning from the world, the outside world, because they did not have access to the inside world of the companies. People thought that putting glue on a pizza was a very good thing, because there was a Reddit comment 12 years ago which said like, putting a glue on the pizza will hold the cheese. And Gemini was recommending it till 6 months ago. If you ask Gemini, like, should I put like glue on the pizza? It'll say yes.
And that's because Reddit has actually sold all the
data.
content, and because they want
And
a
they trained
business
it, no?
model.
And they trained all of this.
Yeah.
And they trained all of this. So I think like, so that is the second source of the problem. Now let's take the third source of the problem, right? Control. Who's training these models? If you haven't really lived an experience, how can you train the model? So can you imagine, like, people say like training AI is like training a kid. I think it's the opposite. It's like, taking the behavior of your mom and trying to make sense out of that, because it's nonsensical. Right? My mother had infinite love, and she bet on my future, unknown future, and she stood for 365 days. Can any AI system train that? Not if you have not lived that context. And people who are training these models have never lived the complete life. They only know a sliver of the life. So that's why you have that problem. And then on top of it, there is a control problem. So I had this beautiful video where I showed like, Mr. Musk and like Sam Altman as cavemen.
Yeah.
Fighting each other. It's a meme. it would just show that, like we as humans have never evolved from being a caveman to a human today. After like many hundreds of thousands of years. Okay. So, because we like power, control, and dominance. Artificial lines fighting, countries fighting, this fighting, resource fighting. Like, I want your land, I want your wealth, I want your resource, I want your saffron. All bullshit. Right? So we actually have this problem where we have a control issue, like who's training the models and like how is it going to behave. And if you ask, like, who's the best athlete in the world, it'll say Elon Musk in Grok. Is it really? Right? So that is another problem. And then we have fascinated by one size fits all. Whether it is a simple yes no decision, I have to move a truck, I don't have to move a truck, I have to pay an invoice, I don't have to pay an invoice. These are like binary decisions. There's nothing like reasoning into this. Right? So these are all symbolic models. So why are we fascinated with frontier models when there are frontier models, when there are hierarchical reasoning models, when there are diffusion models, when there is basically like liquid neural networks? All of these solve different types of contextual problems. And there are different types of hardware. There's a TPU, there's a GPU, there's your cloud, there's your regular compute, then there is like quantum. People can use all different flavors of like all of these like heterogeneous way of processing, but we're only promoting Nvidia chips, we're only promoting ChatGPT and all these things as though that's the world, right? And it is not democratizable. So I feel like a confluence of all of this thing, the ability to not be consistent, not be reliable, not be democratic, being controlled, right? Not having the ability to configure what you want, what you believe in, uh, and the behaviors that these models actually exhibit, right? And oh, by the way, transformer technology is like electricity, like as I said, you cannot explain it, right? So when you have a black box and when you cannot explain, you think anyone is going to trust these models? So that is going to be a big like gap. And people wonder why there are not lot of use cases because of all these things, right? So that's where trust is going to be the next frontier of AI and most consequential frontier of AI. Before you start talking about like super intelligence and all of those like nonsensical topics, let's build trust in the intelligence that we have. Let's basically consume with confidence, right? Let's consume knowing that my business reputation is going to be managed. I can put my child next to it, right? I'm going to make my life's decisions on this, right? When you're able to answer these three questions without any hesitation, then we have arrived on the intelligence journey. Till then, it's like a hype and it's just like fantasy.